Hey, I think we're live. And they also brought in a microphone on the desk there. So it should pick us up a little better. Let's see, where we left off, we were talking about the teacher discipline thing.
Yeah, I think we're fine with the language. I thought you guys just wanted to vet it if you were.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I
just wanted to make,
I didn't know if the caucus was to,
Yeah, just to double check that we were okay with terminology, and I think we were.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, where do we want to go from here? We've got.
lean back, is that,
Sorry, I'm gonna leave.
or was there something you guys wanted to talk about in particular before?
Andrea has stuff for leave, so we might want to wait for her.
The, any progress on the lunch time frame? Okay,
On the extra duty stuff? No.
okay. No, the, specified minutes for lunch.
Oh,
I mean, it's only been a couple of days, so
actually, honestly, I forgot all about the lunch one. I was thinking about the
oh,
PD or the,
Extra duty.
no, the plan time.
oh, right.
We do have, you said no progress on that at this time?
On the lunch one, no.
On the plan time one?
On the plan time one, we could go back and discuss that one.
Okay.
So, let me get to my notes. So on the plan time piece, the way it was presented is to address compensation inequity between grade level buildings. And after reviewing and looking at the information that we've discussed, the proposal from the board's perspective would be, if we really want to look at those inequities across the district and the amounts of plan time, would be to really take a deep look into Dodge City High School and seeing if there was a way to take that 84-minute plan time and develop it into plan time and team time like it is done at the other locations. Because right now there is a huge deficiency in team time and collaborative time at Dodge City High School. And that would be our counter proposal to,
So, so I received an email, after Tuesday's meeting. I don't mean to spring this on you, it just, I didn't think about it until just now when it came up, but I received it after the meeting, so I don't know. From a teacher who, said that there are 2 middle school teachers who are leaving because they have too much work to do and not enough plan time to get it done again. And this teacher also expressed that if she can't strike enough of a balance, and here, let me pull it up so I can pull an actual, like, her wording. The two teachers are going, one of them said, my family is just more valuable to me than this job. So that teacher weighed how much time they were spending outside of school because they didn't have enough plan time and decided that they would have to work somewhere else. So they either go to a different district or maybe out of the profession entirely. And then this teacher also says that if they can't get their job done during the school day by the time that they hit a certain year, like they've got it in their head, okay, if I can't get this done by year whatever, I'm gonna have to go somewhere else. And so, I mean, that's 2 and potentially 3 teachers that are leaving the middle schools because they don't have enough plan time. And that's what we're trying to tell you. It's not, I don't think the solution to that is to reduce the amount of plan time that the high school has. That doesn't help the middle school teachers at all. Like, the problem is not having enough time. It's not.
well, again, and going back to how it was addressed in the letter, it says the inequity between grade level buildings.
Correct, and I suppose there are 2 ways you can correct that inequity. You can decrease plan time, or you can increase plan time for those that have less. I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it, right? Like Thanos snapping his fingers to eliminate half of life. I mean, he could also just double the resources, right? So you're telling me you want to
Love that
Thanos?
idea. Can we double the amount of time that we're
Right.
on contract? Then we can double everybody's plan time.
Right, but, the thing is, like, I don't think we can wave a magic wand and make it equitable from one year to the next right now. But we can certainly take steps to bring it closer. I mean, right now, the middle school teachers have less plan time than anyone.
So I think one of the things that we would like to say, possibly a counter, would be, we have some solutions to try to help some of the problem at the middle school level and the elementary level. At the middle school level, there is 1 day of team time that possibly could be eliminated unless necessary and removed and turned back into personal time. And that would be more like the Friday. Friday would be the day that is a possibility. And then at the elementary level, from my understanding from elementary teachers, is that their plan time gets interrupted because while they're on plan time, they first drop their students at one location, but say PE. But to get them from PE to music, they have to go pick them up and take them to music during their plan time. And that seems to me a waste of that teacher's plan time.
And again, that's the first I'm hearing of that
That's-
second piece.
Yeah,
So I have not even had a chance to ask any
No.
questions on that.
I just received that back as some feedback and I was like, all right, okay, because I am a certified elementary teacher and I've taught elementary for many years. I always drop my kids off at PE and pick them up at computers because they go through these rotations. So when I heard that, I was confused as to why teachers that are on plan would be required to escort students from one class to another. So that could be an
And I can only,
isolated.
yeah, I was gonna say, I can only speak, I know it's not that way in every building, but I can't without talking to the principals say definitively how often that happens.
And
And I
then,
also know there are some split plan times in some buildings.
Well, and that's
Music and PE are not back to
permissible,
back.
that's permissible by the NA, because it just can't be less than 20 minutes. But also, that said, Jules said last Thursday that there are days she doesn't get any planned time, which that is a violation of the negotiated agreement, because the negotiated agreement says they can't have anything less than 20 minutes. So I don't know why that's happening. And we definitely should fix that.
I would agree if that's happening.
PLC day.
And it's the
And can I-
expectation that we're trying to get it so that everybody can get all their work done in the space of a 6-hour, 40-minute workday. That seems to me impractical. I
Well-
haven't been an English teacher.
You know, we know in this profession that there's just gonna be extra time, but like, I think also that if you don't provide teachers time to plan during the workday, then you shove all the planning and things into, or you shove a disproportionate amount into their personal time that they're not technically paid for, you know, like, I don't know, we can absolutely make it so.
Well, I understand. 'cause
Sorry, I think we
I've
might
got
be
it.
clarifying the same thing.
No, I'm gonna clarify what Johnny just said, because nowhere in the negotiated agreement does it say they have to have 20 minutes a day. It says no portion of such daily planning period shall be less than 20 minutes.
Right, which is.
It's an average of 50.
It's an average of
No, but-
50 is all it says.
No, let me give you a little institutional knowledge, just because that's a fight we've been having that took us like 4 years to get that sentence put in, that last sentence of that portion. And we were trying to be extremely careful with the wording, because what was happening a lot before, and I don't know if it's still a lot or if it's a little, but what was happening before, there were a lot of teachers having days of the week they weren't getting any plan time, which means if you're an elementary teacher, you don't even get to go pee. You know, like there was no biological breaks built in that way. So we added that last sentence because we wanted to ensure that no matter what, they should at least get 20 minutes so they can use the restroom.
Because I don't know that that's how it's always interpreted.
Well,
And again, here we are trying to interpret things that other people put into place without clarification, and now it's, the way it's written, it's open to interpretation, so we're gonna have to.
I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree, because
Could you read that sentence again, Jason?
actually,
No portion of such daily planning period shall be less than 20 minutes for individual planning.
right, it's just-
But I think
Or
that-
daily.
But I
Daily
think
planning.
it's above there, I think it's above, sorry.
No,
I'm trying to pull it
No,
up.
it's-
So
Well,
I
right,
don't need to be
It says
arguing.
each full-time elementary and preschool certified employee will have at least an average of 50 minutes per day within the limits of the student's school day, and in addition to certified employees' lunch period. For the purposes of daily planning and preparation, no portion of such daily planning period shall be less than
Right.
20, but I
So-
guess,
Right, no
So you could
portion
do
of
20 minutes
daily
Monday through Thursday.
planning.
exactly, it says no portion of any such daily plan. It doesn't say
No
there's at
portion of
least 20
days.
minutes every day.
No.
It just says that if I give you 84 minutes one day, but your weekly average, and no minutes another day, but your weekly average is 50,
No, the
No portion
word
of
daily
any such
planning.
that's where I'm saying the
Daily planning.
interpretation can be different.
Well, because it's
Daily
portioned,
planning
listen, it's
would be
portioned
daily
out.
planning.
It's portioned out, so like, what was happening was, they would have some days where they would get 50 minutes or 75 minutes, and some days where they would get nothing, and some days where they would get 100 or whatever, so it was averaging out, they weren't violating that. But because there was nothing in there to say they have to have at least this much every day, they were getting 0 on days.
And that's what I'm saying,
And
that's,
a portion of 0 is still a portion, because if you're averaging out 5 numbers and one of them is 0, that's still part of the average. And so this portion of daily planning should not be less than 20 minutes. That was the whole argument.
okay.
I mean, absolutely.
That I was gonna say.
That's not part of an argument I was involved in, and.
No, I know.
Just
I know.
reading the way it's written,
Right,
It's supposed to
and-
be daily, 20 minutes a day.
Right, and Tammy Nedler worked with the elementary schools, extensively to try to make sure that every school could actually do this with their schedule. And they even at the time, and this was a couple of years ago, they moved, at one point, all the elementary schools were on the same schedule, or maybe there were only
That's not
two,
true.
or they were close,
No,
but they were
That's
working
not-
towards
that's
that.
not-
But we added this language in, and it took us like 4 years of this kind of argument, saying, no, we can't have teachers having zero plan time, because then when are they gonna use them? I mean, a high school teacher, I guess, yeah, we have a 5-minute passing period, I can go, but the elementary, what are they gonna do, leave their kids in the hall? I mean, they have to have plan time, they
It's
have to.
supposed to be 20 minutes a day.
Again,
Why wasn't there a clear statement that no?
And because we
I-
thought
I
at the
was
time,
wondering-
Daily.
no
Yeah.
portion of such daily planning shall be less than 20 minutes, I
If we
don't
need
know.
to, if we need to re-clarify that, then we need to re-clarify that. But at the time, that was a clear statement that was made. Everybody on the team
Again,
thought that was clear.
I'm not saying it wasn't, I'm saying the way I interpreted it was different than the way it was
But
intended, so we
it was
apparently do
20
need to
minutes
create
a
some
day.
clarification.
It's a matter of interpretation of the word daily.
Actually, it's really just a matter of when you read the whole thing together.
Right.
Again, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, I'm just saying what my mind read and what I interpreted when I read that whole statement together was you get 50 minutes average per week, and if I give it to you, it can't be less than 20 minutes in a block. That's what my mind read.
Oh,
That's how I
Yeah, I
read
read that too.
And I
It's-
think that that's
that's-
15, it
something
doesn't
more-
count as anything.
That's what my
Just-
mind read. My
just
mind
to
did
get
not
off-
read,
20
but you
minutes
get
a
at
day.
least 20 minutes every day.
Yeah,
We-
that is how I read it.
we
Yeah, I'm not
tried-
being contrarian.
Yeah,
we tried to get rid of the word average, just to say 50 minutes.
Yeah.
But there were days that.
Well, but that I can guarantee you that's never, that is never gonna happen because the
Right.
schedules just will not allow for it. But I
Right.
do see from your perspective why you worked hard to try to get at least 20 minutes per day.
Right.
And I, again, this will take a caucus or at least maybe until Amy's able to provide me with some more information as to where this currently sits as to how we rewrite it, because we are obviously gonna have to rewrite it because we want it to be very clear.
I was gonna say,
Right.
if we need to redo clarifying language, then let's do that, but that is supposed to be 20 minutes a day for planning.
And like,
That is what I was here when that was
Yeah.
done.
and it was actually one of the only reasons, like, we agreed to add 3 days to the schedule about 4
Yeah.
or 5 years ago.
Yes.
We were like, this is dead
Yes.
in the water right now unless you can guarantee some elementary
20 minutes
teachers
a
plan
day.
time, because they're pissed about this. Well, I guess they're not pissed, they can't piss, they don't have time. But they're angry about this because, and you wanna add days where they can't be, like, no, thank you. So, I mean, it was a knockdown, it was the
It
closest
was a
we've
big
come to
deal.
impasse in the time that I've been on this team.
And I respect that. Again, I'm just telling you, when I read it,
Yeah.
that's what I read. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's what I read, and so we obviously need to clarify it.
I mean, I read that as saying anything less than 20 minutes doesn't count as plan time.
Yeah.
It has to be at
Oh.
least 20 to even count.
and I think
Yeah.
that would be the interpretation of others as well.
Oh.
I'm looking at your schedule right now.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem is like, it's really like, these are humans we're talking about. They have needs, biological needs. We
And I
gotta
would
give
s-
them time.
I would say just having looked over many different elementary schedules, that probably happens, this situation like this is more the, what do you wanna call it? It happens less
Anomaly.
than, yeah, it isn't,
It's
it's
a
an
novel.
It's
anomaly.
not the norm.
Well, and that's what I thought, because I hadn't heard anything about
Right.
it. I thought,
And
okay,
that's
we
what
put this to
I'm
bed,
looking at
everyone
right
needs
now.
20 minutes, it's fine, but
Yeah.
if that's not happening, then that's problematic, because this was intended to be, you have to give them something every day,
Okay.
somehow.
But if it's less than 20 minutes, it doesn't even count as planning.
Right, and I know that that's very clear, because the less than 20 minutes doesn't count, because we adjusted a couple different schedules this year because of that.
And I would argue that 0 is less than 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Again,
I honestly,
I'm just
can-
saying, when I read it, it's like, okay, I have to give you an average of 50 minutes.
Right.
Well,
And if I give you less than 20, then it doesn't count towards those 50 minutes. So I would have to make it up on a different day. Again,
Oh, yeah. No,
I did, my mind
I'm-
just
I'm
did not
fine with
read it
clarity.
as there has to be 20 minutes at least in a day. It just, and again, it is what it is, and we'll adjust it, we'll make it more clear, and we will honor what was agreed to. I mean, that's just what it is.
Yeah, and yeah, clarity is good. And I think that if you're talking about 250 minutes,
But on the interruption for, and again, we will have to, because I completely agree that, and I know student supervision throws a kink into a lot of things at the elementary level, but if you are granted 20 minutes of plan time, but then have to spend 7 of them transporting kids back and forth, that's less than 20 minutes. So we will have to work through where those issues are and how we make adjustments to get the right people transporting kids at those times to keep the teachers from being interrupted.
And most of those at the elementary level run on 25-minute cycles, not 20-minute cycles. So that, I mean, I need to flip through everybody's schedule, but right now they run on 25-minute cycles.
and
So
I think when we were talking about this,
That's how we did.
I think we first proposed 25 because of that, and somehow settled on 20. And I honestly don't
probably
remember.
because of music and PE. I mean,
Yeah.
just
Yeah, maybe, I don't quite recall.
But do you believe it's reasonable to have those 25, is it, once again, going back to the lunch conversation?
Right.
Was it built at 25 knowing that there was gonna have to be the transport of students in the middle of that time? Or can we feasibly get out the transport of students in the middle of that time?
That's what I would like to see. Elementary teacher.
Music and PE at elementary has been 25 minutes since
since the dawn,
the
except it used to be
35-minute lunch was built in for all the interruptions for the hallway and having to stand in line with the kids or wait for Paris to come pick them up for recess or something. That's why we ended up with the longer lunch time. But the 50 minutes was always music PE with 25 minutes. And I've been here 17 years, I think.
It's been that, the only time it was different is when we had half-day PE. It was 15 minutes.
So literally
The reason
just
we
in,
have the 20
Yeah.
is because we were splitting up music and PE where they would get 5 minutes of plan here, 5 minutes of plan here,
Oh,
and they would average.
That's why that's.
Yeah.
That's why we said we had to have a minimum.
I don't know about you.
But again, I'm
not
going
gonna
back
get
to
anybody to fight.
the issue of the so if there's 25 minutes, how is the transport of, if it's a 25-minute block, how is the transport of kids in the middle of that block occurring?
Because they're back to back.
Well,
So it's a 50-minute period and you're having to transport them halfway between those two periods?
Not every day and not every teacher.
I
Uh,
was gonna
Again, I'm
say,
just trying
this-
Yeah,
to
it's,
gain an understanding of
This
where the transport of kids is occurring and what it's going to entail to get it.
This is where I need to
Right.
talk to other people that have back-to-back specials like that. I know I can only speak for us right now off the top of my head, but literally our PE and music people
are the ones
are
who
the
do the
ones that
changes.
do that.
Central
And
does
other
that.
people that have back-to-back, those teachers do this switch. So I guess without talking to another principal, I
will
think it's
I'll wait to hear
doable
back from
when
you
they're
too.
back to back. I can check on that. And then the other thing when you're talking about, like Jewel's situation and not having that plan time on that day. I can look at these schedules and see, like I said, just having reviewed them at the beginning of the year to make sure we didn't have the 20-minute issue anywhere. I don't recall there being very many cases like this situation. So I just need to look at it to see how feasible it is to do that. The 50 minutes of library kind of in a 3-section school costs a little bit of a.
I think it was supposed to be library and counselor.
Yeah.
The counselors used to go in and teach
They still do.
Okay.
They still do, but in a 3-section school, it gets a little bit,
In my 3-section school, they broke one class into the 2 classes, and that's how they handled the 3 sections. So the smallest class, smallest number of students was broken into the 2 other groups, and so
they
if we had
actually
20, then it was maybe a little bit higher.
They had like 35 instead, or 30.
Not even that high, because, yeah, it would be 30 and 30, and that was the only situation.
I'll just need to look into it.
So did you happen to ask the teachers that are leaving because of lack of plan time, how much plan time it would take for them to stay or come back?
No, this was a communication received. It was, I didn't speak to them directly. But, I mean, if they feel like they don't have enough time to get things done and have to do it at home and then decide that that's, I mean, and it's not, if it were a one-off, that's one thing, but this is 2 teachers and a third, but
That's why I'm asking, like,
Yeah.
again, just. from
no, I
that
don't know what the
perspective.
exact amount would be, but I think that, ignoring that aspect of it and then aiming to lessen plan time for other teachers is not going to solve an inequity. I think it's only going to exacerbate things.
I think what you're asking is if I have 42 minutes, that it's still low in my estimation after having worked in several different districts. If I could, at the middle school, gain one more 42-minute period, it puts me in line with an elementary teacher. I know elementary teachers have a lot to do too, but that gets both of us, at least if we can eliminate the interruptions of their time and the lack of their time, it gets us closer to that levels. I mean, in a perfect world, nobody would be asked to work outside of their time. Because, I don't know very many other jobs that require people to give up their personal time to complete their work. And just because it is a part of our reality as teachers, doesn't mean it's the way it should be either. So that's why this is a strong feeling for people.
No, I understand why it's a strong feeling, but I would also disagree with the statement that there's not a lot of other jobs that require people to give up their personal time to do things for work. That's why salaried employees were invented. And I would guarantee you that every salaried employee ever gave up personal time to complete their work. And now what we have is what we would call a hybridization of salaried versus hourly workers, where we're paying a salary, but then we're going to pay an hourly rate for all of these extra things that we have to do. And again, even the Department of Labor has special categories and things that exist for those that impart knowledge on others for those reasons. Because yes, I get it. It's not for everybody. And yes, do you end up doing large amounts of planning and different things like that outside of the normal workday or grading papers or doing things like that. But it's not only teachers. Salaried workers are salaried workers, and when there's work to be done, there's work to be done. And when there's not, then there's not.
I mean, as a former English teacher, I don't think there's any way that I could have, even if I had double plan times, no way could I have effectively taught English the way it needs to be taught without doing some of that work at home. And certainly on this job, the other day I was up at 6 to get here, had a meeting, drove home, started negotiating with Lakin an hour out, got on Zoom when I got home, finished about 9 o'clock, took an hour break, sat down, worked on presentation. I'm getting extra pay for that. Now, I'm not saying that's the way it ought to be, it's just the way it is. I think everybody who's on salary does stuff that's not just during the office hours. As Jason said, the Fair Labor Standards Act recognizes that salary is kind of where they get you. You're
Well-
paid to do the task, not for putting in a certain amount of time.
Recently,
Right, but-
DOJ has just said they're going to require a overtime payment for those on salary at a certain level too. So I'm not arguing that people don't do work outside as salaried, because I live in a household with 2 salaried people. However, what I'm saying is, just because it is a reality doesn't mean it's something we should just accept. It's something we should work to try to eliminate as much as possible, so that people are not feeling like they have to leave the profession.
And I can also tell you that, like, I tried last year, one quarter of the year, I tried not doing any work outside of hours, aside from like going to tournaments, you know, that one I can. But like only using my planning time to do things. And all that I really accomplished was I fell behind, like, so, or things just didn't get done. So even with our extended or our longer plan time, I still have to, and maybe, and I could be anomalous in that I also have like, I have to secure transportation and hotel, forms for hotel rooms and sign kids up for tournaments. And I mean, there's a lot of other like back end work that I have to do before we go to a tournament. So that's part of it. I understand that, but like.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but you also get paid $10,000 for those 2 things on top of your normal pay for doing all of those other things now as well, right?
Yes, but I would argue that $10,000 works out to about peanuts when you factor
No,
in
I
the amount
agree.
of time
I was
that I
there.
put in, like, just at tournaments. I mean, like, and not to take anything from football or whatever, but a football game is like, what, 3 hours? And it's an hour before, an hour after for the actual game. We started the tournaments at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have to be there by 7, and then we don't leave until like 4:30 or 5. It's an all day, and then a lot of tournaments are also Friday evening and then all day, like all Friday evening and then all day Saturday, and then the 6 hours to get there for Kansas City. I mean, it's
I don't disagree that.
a tremendous amount of time. But
Go back to what we were talking about, maybe moving out the plan time and using it as personal time.
So, yes, and I did not, so we did discuss the other day, and again, my proposal back was that I don't believe changing one of those days currently back to personal plan time is, but again, I haven't had a response back from the middle school principals yet on what exactly that would look like from the team time perspective, and what topics that then would have to be, try to be handled some other way. Because again, going back to solving one problem, but creating a new problem. So I mean, what I'm hearing from Angelique is that potentially there is at least one of those days every week that team time is doesn't currently have a topic assigned to it. Is that accurate, Angelique?
It does have things for us to do, but looking at what is available, if we were to remove a team time, that's the day that would make the most sense, if that clarifies it. So like, I'm an anomaly because I am between 2 teams, so my team time kind of adjusts, and some days I might need to go to both teams, so I do that as a choice for me, so I get the information from both teams. But sometimes Friday's a little bit more flexible, and that's the only reason I said that. It's not that there's nothing to do in it, because there are things that we have to do as a team. However, it's more flexible, I guess is what I'm saying.
If the opportunity were to arise to give the middle school a personal plan time back, if that would allow us to keep some teachers in that aspect and not have them feel as overworked or as stressed, because we have given them the opportunity to have more personal plan time to get some things accomplished that they feel like they need to have accomplished. I feel that that might benefit not only them, but also possibly the students that they are working for, and also the district that they are working for as well.
I would agree completely, but I also see it
And I
as a,
also see that, I do see the fact that the administration might not want to do that, and I do see that.
well, in certain terms, it's the difference between transactional and transformational in a mindset. Because if I give you 42 more minutes of plan time this year, you're happy for this year. And then next year, you want 42 more minutes of plan time because I still don't have time to get all of my stuff done. And so you're constantly chasing
I don't.
happiness through transactions
I don't.
instead of literally changing it transformationally and thinking differently, full scale
I don't-
about the
Okay,
situation.
but also like, what you're paying us for is our time. Like, the time that it takes me to do things, to teach, yeah, that's what you're paying me for. Now, you pay me more if I have expertise, right? So that's why our salary schedule, you get paid more if you have more experience and more education. So, but if I were a bachelor's, like, just able to teach, just certified to teach, you're paying me for my time, right? And so it is a transaction, and I think that ignoring that is a disservice to people, because, you know, I love my job, I really do. I found my niche, but if I weren't getting paid, I would not do it. I have bills to pay. I have family to take care of. I have, you know, other obligations, and this job enables me to do those things. So I hear what you're saying, and I don't completely disagree, but I think it's both. It's not one or the other. It's not just, well, I gotta think about it
I
differently.
might reframe that just a little bit. It's not really the time that you're paid for, it's the service. You know, everybody, we expect a certain service, pay for it, we negotiate what the pay is gonna look like, try to negotiate as much as we can, what the workday is gonna look like. But everybody knows in education, workday depends on what it is you're teaching in part. I don't want to, you know, some people's jobs don't require as much planning, as much grading, as much sitting down with students and working through things as others do. And we're never going to make that equal. You know, you pay people for their time when you pay them on an hourly basis. You still expect service during that time. But I've always viewed any salary position as, you've got this mission to accomplish. You're going to get this many dollars, invest what time it takes to do it. Some people are wildly efficient. I had a math teacher when I was in high school who had his life planned out. He would never give tests the same class in the same day, never took any work home with him in his entire career. Good on him. I couldn't find a way to do that teaching English, not if I was going to do a good job of it. So I think and maybe it's semantics, but I think what really, the way I looked at it is, and the way I look at it in my current job, I mean, they pay me for a service. And if that means that I have to work 15 hours some days, so be it. And believe me, I do.
Well, but I also would, I mean, I'll be quick to point out, like, in a recent grievance, there was, the exact opposite argument was made by the district, in that, teachers who took on an extra class during their plan time, so they had zero plan time ever, are not paid on the days they're not here. And so then it's just a transaction, it's just the time that they're physically in the building doing the thing, even though you're also making the argument that it's a service and it's not about time. I mean, it's kind of, you're making the opposing arguments there. You know what I mean? Like, you're saying, well, we're paying you for your time when you're in that class, but then also, your plan time, we're not paying you for your time. It's a service. You might have to be outside of school. I mean, we're talking about both sides of the
The
mouth.
plan time
We
helps you to meet the
We didn't
service
take
expectations.
away, the person was still paid for their plan time, even though they weren't there. They just weren't paid extra on top of their plan time when they weren't actually in the classroom teaching on their plan time.
Right, like they were
And
like they were an emergency sub.
Back to
But
what we just talked about with institutional knowledge and the plan time piece, the institutional knowledge that I gain when I investigated that entire situation was the fact that it was actually renegotiated by the district at some point to be that way because it used to be a salaried lump sum that teachers were paid just to teach an extra class period on their plan time. And the district renegotiated it to be done on a daily basis because of the absences that were
Except
occurring.
that,
And that was shared, and it was actually one of the teachers that I spoke with in that hearing that confirmed that that's how it used to be done.
in the hearing that we just had, that's not what she said.
Okay.
I
Well,
think we're
but also-
maybe away from the
No, but
negotiation,
I think
so-
this is also relevant and important in that the language in the contract doesn't back up what you're saying. Like, if it was negotiated, then why doesn't the language in the contract say you're only paid for the minutes you're in the?
And again, that's where the
classroom?
interpretation piece comes in.
Well, no, but you're telling me two different things again. You're saying, well, it was negotiated, but now, oh, it's just an interpretation of this wording. I think that's also two different things. So, you know,
I wouldn't disagree.
So back to it, we're trying to find a way to get more plan time for the middle school people.
And make sure that,
And we sort of
I'm so
have
sorry.
one.
and make sure that the elementary schools do not lose their precious little plan time that they have to.
Absolutely.
I mean, is there any way that transport of students can be carried out by classified staff?
That's what she was gonna
I've
look
emailed
at.
my principals.
We've got the elementary deal already going. I've already communicated with the middle school principals on that 1 day a week. And I'll bring back what that looks like from their perspective, or maybe even have them come back and tell us what that looks like from their perspective.
Can I clarify one thing, because I just want to make sure that I understood the question. The transporting of students has to do with when there's back-to-back specials, and it's between PE and music, or their specials, no matter what it is. It's when they're back-to-back. It has nothing to do with, say they have 25 minutes of PE in the morning and 25 minutes of music in the afternoon. It has nothing to do with transporting them to and from that. It's about when they have that block of time with two specials combined, correct? That's what I thought I heard you say,
I believe, if I understand my information from somebody else, that is correct, it's when it's back to back. But I think we also need to be aware of, and maybe make others aware of, that I think there is a possibility of, well, this other teacher that I'm dropping off to is late getting back, and now I have that. So that's a totally different non-negotiable.
That sounds
just
more
something
like
that-
an administrative,
Yeah.
like.
So if I'm wrong about what I'm thinking, that it's the back-to-back stuff, then it might be something about like, well, I had 9 in the morning, had to pick my kids up, then go here, but I didn't get my full plan time because this person wasn't here, so I don't know if that's the truth, okay? Hopefully I clarified that.
Okay, yeah, I just asked the back-to-back when I started thinking, maybe I misunderstood.
That's the way I understood it too, was back-to-back.
Okay, so we will see if, again, she'll take care of that part. I will take care of the part with the middle school principals to discuss deeper what it would really mean to put 1 day of plan, or 1 day of team time back to plan time at the middle school level. And that is the current proposal request, correct?
right, and then also, yeah, and I think she's working on it to make sure that we can get the elementary teachers at least something every day.
Yeah, that was in the same question.
Yeah,
Because I just, like I
That
said,
piece
I
we
think
agree
that's
on.
more of an
Again,
anomaly. I just real quickly was
Yeah,
going through schedules as fast as I could, and it really looks like an anomaly, not the norm.
okay,
So.
good.
Okay. Next.
We want to talk about evaluation tools, we want to bring it up.
No, I think That you can't show.
No, I'm drawing a blank. So that was cool.
We can go to the evaluation handbook and evaluation tool if we don't have anything else to go to.
What was that?
See that? What was that mentoring thing with the coaches and?
Oh, that
Because
was,
I don't think I have that numbered right in my notes.
that was the topic about trying to make sure that we had the language clarified to
Oh,
where
language clarification.
if it was part of your normal
Sorry.
duties and responsibilities, that those stipends would not be in effect, basically, is the
Of the
proposal.
mentoring stipends.
Yes.
Do we,
And again, the whole reason for that is because our instructional coaches, those positions were created for them to have specific duties and responsibilities, yet they were created as certified positions, still part of the negotiated agreement. And so if you took that to a literal sense, their normal daily duties, and say they're at the high school here, we've got 2 or 3 instructional coaches, and if we had them listed with a mentor or listed as a mentor for any of the new teachers out here, literally, we would be bound to paying an extra $1,000 a year per person that they were attached to, even though that's what their entire job is to do.
so,
I guess my first question, on this is, I honestly don't know. Would the assigning them a new teacher because it used to be the mentoring was done by other teachers, other certified teachers who have been around it.
And we still will have some of that, and those
Right.
teachers will still get paid for it.
Well, so my question is, even with the instructional coaches, how much, is it gonna add like work outside of their workday?
You can talk to them.
I don't know, I'm asking.
Dr. Springston and I, like for the last year and a half, we've been getting feedback from them. We've had multiple conversations. I mean, they have, this entire thing has been explained to them and they understand it. And they, again, we're not trying to keep them from getting paid if they do things outside of the scope of the normal day, because there's already provisions for that too. And they currently do get, like if them and the teacher decide that we just can't fit this into the normal day the way we need to, and they need to meet outside, then they turn in timesheets and they get paid for their time outside of there. Again, the whole reason behind this is because we used to not have instructional coaches. KSDE has changed the regulations for what has to be done for a mentor teacher and what ongoing training has to occur. As we looked at the scope of the big picture, we're like, wow, we have a group of individuals that's what they are trained in, that this is exactly what they do on a daily basis. Could it make more sense to put the bulk of that with them and then not have to do all of those other things with everyone else that we might have to? And so we literally started that conversation a year and a half ago, and got it to this point. And so and again, Dr. Springston could give you a lot more input because he's their direct supervisor and how that all played out over the year. But from my perspective, from the district's perspective, I don't believe the district should have to pay $1,000 to somebody simply because they're named as a mentor for somebody when their daily job duties are to do what they're already doing.
I'm curious as to where this would be wanting to be placed.
Yeah, where's that in the
Yes.
DCNEA?
So if you go,
Look at it.
if you
Well,
go to.
I know that the
sub-
mentoring salary, right,
Yeah, if you go to the supplemental
20.
salary schedule,
page 20, I think it
thank
is.
you. Let me get to there. Yeah, so basically what we would need to do is maybe even put an asterisk or something there where it says teacher mentor first year, second year, 1,500. And the wording would I guess the proposed wording, I hadn't even really got to that point, to be honest with you. It would be something to the effect that this is only, or this is not for situations when the normal duties or responsibilities of the position allow for, again, I'm open to,
So basically, that'd be available to a classroom teacher.
absolutely.
Not to one of the instructional
Absolutely, we
coaches.
want it to be available, like if you're a classroom teacher and you're asked to mentor the teacher next to you, you should still get paid for that, because that's not part of your normal daily job duties and expectations. But we have a group of individuals now who do have those things as normal job duties and expectations.
You were just thinking out
This
loud.
is
and
not
I-
for situations where normal job duties or normal duties
Did
are
I put
not-
anything in the letter? Let me
I
find
don't
my letter.
remember.
Let me look at my letter.
It's not.
But I think what you're saying makes sense. I'm always a little cautious when
No,
I'm, hey, let's not pay people, hold on.
And
I have
I,
language at-
I'm not saying we have to
specifies stipends
come to a
are-
tentative
Oh,
agreement.
Stipends are only applicable if it occurs outside of normal job duties and functions. That's what you're wanting to put as an
And then
addition.
we could, like, for example, or how.
Yeah, we could do the same italicized thing below, for example, instructional,
Includes, but it's not limited
Coaches.
to,
yes. For example, instructional coaches carrying out normal instructional coaching cycles and duties
Yeah,
would
we could
not
do
be
that.
eligible for the stipends.
so, yeah,
And we could even include, but would be eligible for the letter E or F, whatever
yeah,
hourly rate outside, if they were working outside of normal contract hours. Like, we could put that whole thing down there below.
and then even for further clarity, we could, no, maybe it's not E. Or
I
wherever
can't remember
that
if it's
is.
E or F or G.
Yeah, wherever that is, we can say like instructional coaches mentoring outside the school years.
Are you saying the 1875 an hour,
It's, yeah, it would be
level
the
E?
level E.
I mean, letter E, level 3.
There you
That's
go.
the words, if they would come out of my mouth.
Well, that's,
Okay, so. So stipends are only applicable if it occurs outside of normal job duties and functions. But would be, would be eligible, no, how would we say that?
To be available, like they'd be
Would-
available to staff that,
Would be available
sorry, I didn't mean to put words in your mouth.
for,
no,
I literally
that's
think
kind of what we're
Yeah.
doing, so it's gonna be.
Kind of say,
Thank you.
would still be, classroom teachers would still be eligible for the stipends if mentoring.
well, if we
Another.
put this wording in here that you're talking about, from your notice letter that says stipends are only applicable if it occurs outside normal job duties and functions. And then put, all or some work done outside would be available or eligible for, additional pay under letter E, level 3, if they are completing it outside. I mean, that's real wordy, but that's just kind of the thoughts that are coming, so. I do have to tell you from a teacher's perspective that I've been through 5 different mentoring programs. Can you tell I moved a few times? That the best mentoring for me is when I had same level, same grade, or as close as possible, same level, same grade. I've been mentored by a coach, I've been mentored by a kinder teacher while I was a 4th grade teacher, I was mentored by a special ed teacher while I was a 5th grade teacher, and none of those were as good as my 4th grade teacher mentoring me when I was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
So,
Especially, and honestly, exactly why our PLC and team time and collaborative time is so valuable to us. Because that is where the most mentoring occurs, is in those teams, in those collaborative groups.
I think those groups and the mentor are two different, I mean, I think they're different. The mentor is one-on-one, I'm having this problem in my class. The group is more like, how are you guys handling, unit 3 or whatever? I think it's more of a collective effort than I have this one problem with this one kid.
Gotcha.
Can you, with your experience, help me with that? And to her point, like, when I was taking an educational, I can't remember what course it was before Hayes, they assigned me a mentor, and she was a super nice lady and very knowledgeable, but she had retired a while ago. And every time she came and worked with me and observed me, every time she wrote that I needed to use note cards, 3x5 note cards. And at the time, every kid in the room had an iPad in their hand. And we were even using an app that simulated note cards without the need to like have a bunch of square pieces of paper running around the room. So I just felt like many things she's telling me was not very helpful. She was a mentor. And it's because she wasn't teaching. She didn't teach at the same level I did when she did teach, and she wasn't using the same technology, wasn't even familiar with the technology, And in the instructional coaches, I'm not equating them to that, but it does, I had a much better mentor when I had Jennifer Waldron as my mentor, because she was teaching English just like I was, and, so there's some value to that.
I get it, and again, I've been mentored multiple times in my career as well, and I do understand, like, yes, there's a common connection if you're just discussing or speaking the same language, so to speak. And so I do, and again, I believe there's a lot of that occurs during that PLC and plan or in team time. And if not, then I think we're missing the boat on that time a little bit, to be honest.
So could we ask that you guys write up something on the mentoring? Like, would you,
Yes.
and then
That way
That
you
way
can
we
include
can-
the wording from.
I already write a mentor proposal.
Yeah.
Say, you might want to include wording from page 20, 21,
Yes,
and
I will.
NA, and from your letter.
I absolutely will. And I will drop it into the shared drive as soon as I have it written up, and I'll send an email letting you know that it's there.
Okay.
it's already 1:30.
Okay, so hang on, I just want to go over a few things from my notes to make sure we're
You're
hitting
good.
everything.
You're good.
Okay, so language clarification on mentor and stipends, we're waiting. That'll happen next time. Mr. Schick will bring,
I'm gonna write a proposal and drop, that's what you just asked me,
yeah,
right?
that's
I'm
right.
gonna drop that proposal into the shared drive. I'll email Lisa and Johnny when it's there. It'll probably be either, depending on when we get it done, it'll be this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Okay, so then the next one was the duty-free lunch, and I had waiting on that. And
Yes.
all I put down was just waiting on that. because-
I'll be honest, I completely
Well,
forgot about the discussion on duty-free lunch. It is on my to-do list now, but remind me,
Okay.
what was the proposed,
Something
what is
about we
being
needed a set,
proposed on that?
Well,
Mr. Stoba said we needed a set number of minutes
Yeah,
for
we're trying-
lunch.
trying to go
We don't
with
have that in there.
Yeah.
Very short of having.
it's duty free, but the duty free could, I guess, technically be 3 minutes. I mean, I know you wouldn't do that.
24, 25, maybe
Yeah.
number.
Yeah. So, and it's been expressed to me by other teachers and coaches, debate coaches who negotiate, they're like, it's not have like a set number of minutes for lunch. I'm like, no, is that weird? They're like, yes, it's very weird.
And then the other thing I had circled was plan time, middle school plan time, you were gonna check on
I
that with
already
middle
got that
school
on my
principals.
to-do list.
And then these are two other things from May 31st. Health wellness gym access, something.
Oh, yeah,
Amy Loader's name is by it.
He's already
He
talked
came back,
yeah,
about that.
the
yes.
YMCA stuff.
That was at the beginning of last time's meeting.
She's like, oh my
Where
God.
was I?
Oh, yes, I remember
I am the
that.
wellness
It's,
committee chair.
Oh,
That's
wait,
fine.
that's-
I was like,
That's
Yeah,
why,
okay,
that's
that's
why.
So the other piece we were gonna ask you, because you weren't there, and that's probably why she left it on her notes, even though I reported back on the YMCA piece, is we were gonna ask the wellness committee to possibly see if are there districts out there that offer some sort of fitness room or something within their district for their staff members, and what does that look like? How is it structured if they are able to do that, so to speak?
Okay.
So we did report on half of that, but we did not yet the other
Okay.
half of that.
So I don't
So
know
I need
why
to
I
reach
missed
out
the
to my
YMCA
school.
stuff in my notes.
Well, just
They're all-
through the course of next school year, as you
Oh.
have help your wellness committee as your meeting and those types of things.
Yeah.
Maybe it can become kind of like a little site, almost like the insurance committee looks at benefits and does all of those things and reports back. Can the wellness committee help with some of that and see if it's a viable option, so to speak?
Sure. I think we already have our first meeting scheduled for September,
Okay.
so that'll be perfect. I'll put it on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Surprise.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, I just saw
What's really funny is I read the
Name,
minutes, and
like
I've
in
never
purple.
seen that, I must have missed it.
Okay, so those are the only things I had circled that we haven't talked about in the past. We've kind of come around, except for that. My only other thing that I had written down was E4 versus
That's the evaluation piece.
Oh, and the leave policy. We haven't talked about the leave policy.
Well, I figured you wanted Andrea here since
Yeah,
she
we wanted
kind of
Andrea
ran
here.
that last year, so.
And there were some other things what we wanted Hammer here for anyway, which was other stuff.
So do you want to start E4E today or keep versus E4E today? Have the brain bandwidth?
We would have an hour and 20 minutes, probably like an hour, because we want to wrap up.
So
We want to mess with it today?
I would just assume, like, if we have the time on the calendar, that at least we start, yes, because the more of these things that we can hash out before Hammer gets here with numbers and things, at least start the conversation.
Okay.
That way, we're not just starting the conversation, at least then we kind of, like, we can leave today almost like, okay, we'll go back and caucus and take everything under advisement, as opposed to having to come back the next time, meet for 45 minutes, and then having to caucus and waste the rest of the time caucusing. So if we can at least start the conversation today, I think that would be beneficial to all of us. As much as I would like to just leave right now, along with the rest of you,
It's fair.
I have to sometimes hold myself accountable too. Do we need to walk down the hall, take 5 minutes real quick?
Yeah, you're right. I
Need some more water?
Phone call visit. She's doing.
So you're not
Begin at-
leaving the school?
At 10
You're
till.
not leaving?
I'm double checking.
Yeah, 10
Okay,
minutes
well,
or
I
5 minutes.
I put
Let's
you
just-
on
Let's go at 10 till, yeah, that sounds good, about 9 minutes. That way people have phone calls.
My granddaughter called me.
Oh,
They took the girls from us yesterday. Supposedly they're coming back in a month.
Did you guys know this was happening?
She was supposed to come visit. And then, well, originally she wanted them all summer and he said no. But-
She's the one in charge, right? Lisa?
Well, she's 10.
Oh, okay, sorry. The older daughter, though, is the one that has custody. And she was in jail.
Temporary. Mom got out of jail. So mom came and got them, and supposedly it's just for a month. But I got the 10-year-old one of those watches so she could call me anytime.
I am so sorry.
It's
That
all
was
good.
mine. I saw it.
So she called, so I,
Just a reminder to break things with the next room, so I don't know if you care.
hope everybody likes the idea of doing that.
So she's got them. There were a lot of tears yesterday. And you don't have any idea what they're coming,
I don't disagree.
because she can keep them there. It's unfortunate, but that is the way it works.
I've had him for 5 years, and I've had Lisa for 5 years, and I've had Marius and she.
Mom should have thought about this, given it some thought, but she didn't. I haven't back in 6 months. She put me back in jail. Sorry, I've been watching too much crime and order stuff.
Yeah, I hope I have them back before, because the rest of her family wants to take her.
Shit. I found them! We only have 20 minutes left, but by golly, I'm gonna have a decent chair when I'm sitting here. There are some more down here too. There's out in the hall and down here. But if we're gonna sit for another hour in these chairs, I want something a little more comfortable. Voila!
And just sitting and getting up is hard right now.
Do you want a chair?
No,
Right out here.
no, the act of getting up after sitting so long. So what's a demon bean?
It's the coffee part.
Huh?
It's the coffee part.
Okay, I didn't know you had a coffee cart.
We do up here once a week. They come through with coffee, tea, snacks. Sometimes more than once a week, but usually it's once a week.
How cool
Sometimes-
is that?
Sometimes they'll come through twice a week.
Cool idea.
Kids like it. I don't drink the coffee, but I'll get the donuts.
I just keep walking around seeing, I'm in favor of the coffee bean, the demon bean.
I'm not going to Thursday. I think like. I can't be gone.
What they were.
Next time I will probably. My car not been down.
For another hour though, I'm gonna sit nice.
I've never sat in one of those. I almost look at sled.
Yeah, they almost look a little dicey to me. Maybe they're not made for people my size. And not many things are.
Did you get the soda? You must not have got the soda machine working.
No, it rebuffed me.
Yeah, I think at the end of the school year, they come and empty them all out and then they don't refill again until August. Because they don't like coming up here.
It wouldn't take my dollar, and then I pushed the button that said no sale, so I took that to mean I was disabled.
Yeah. My guess would be is they don't have anything in it.
I will find a convenience store on the way out of town and get my fix.
I meant to go get, but all of a sudden it was 12:15 and I was still sitting at the office. I was like, I got
Yeah.
the back time now. Lost the time.
I was
It was a quick hour.
fiddling around with my car because it wasn't wanting to pick up the Android Auto Android Auto app, which is, I like to have that up because it shows me the maps.
Yeah.
I could listen to stuff and I could take calls, but I want the map. I don't know what's up with it. Every new car comes with gremlins, I guess. It worked fine yesterday, but
But today
this
it
morning I
won't.
decided, I don't know if it's the car or my phone.
Oh, yeah, it could be the phone too. All I know is it still took a good 10 to 15 minutes to walk from up here all the way down and out to the farthest parking lot over there. It's like, wow. Just walking.
So here's what I can tell you, like, it would be, obviously, but I guarantee you, contact.
You live in Wichita? Topeka. You have to drive all the way back to Topeka tonight.
Well, no, my dad just had gallbladder surgery. And they live in Elwood. So I'm gonna go stay with my dad tonight so my mom can go to Kansas Quilters Association. Dad's doing all right, but he is 78 years old.
Yeah.
And probably shouldn't be alone after.
Not after surgery, yeah.
So I'll just drive back to Elwood and I've got some work to do and hang out with him tomorrow and back to Topeka on Saturday.
5-hour drive?
4.5.
4.5?
Yeah, for the last 6 years, I've been driving around in a 2016 Altima. Just had enough miles. And I had to replace the transmission once already. And so my son's car, he had a Volvo, the engine blew up. It's gonna be $12,000 to replace the engine. And I said, well, you don't drive that much. Why don't you take my Altima? And that's the excuse I need to buy a new car.
See, perfect.
So I bought a Dodge Hornet and I really like it so far. It's a very spirited car. really goes.
I got a Toyota RAV hybrid. I'm liking it.
Yeah, this car has so much more comfortable seats than the Ultima. And when you're in the car
That's
for
what
4.5
I'm-
hours, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it does.
But I'll put 20,000 miles a year on a car easy doing this stuff.
I guess I do too, because just driving back and forth to Wichita to see
Especially
my
with
daughter
Western
and my
Kansas.
sisters.
Yeah. Oh, you live out here, putting miles on a car.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody does. 20,000 miles a year on a car, someone who lives in Wichita Topeka is out of the ordinary.
Yeah, that is out of the ordinary.
Sit down with me individually and say, I struggle teaching this, how do we do that? Because I honestly, my Kelsey, and we talk and we say, this is where we're going, this is how we have to get here, these are the unit, we're gonna touch on it, do all that, but it's not me being able to sit down and speak with a person on that. Okay, I'm wrong, what can you tell me about this? Because everyone just don't have that time.
I know they couldn't come to every building every month, but even as if, every quarter or something, yeah. And then what they did back, was it for Teacher Appreciation Week? They had a cart going around with coffee and goodies for the teachers. But I don't know if it was the Demon Bean, if it was just like the PTO doing it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Our Demon Bean left and did several elementaries, I know that.
Uh-huh.
We were just,
No,
I
that was the
saw,
thing.
I
I
saw that hanging on the door, I had no idea what it was. Sign me up. Sign me up at the district office.
Great kids.
Oh, I was telling them when they
love
would
that.
come to Ross, it was like my
Love
favorite
that.
thing of all time. I loved it. It was such a great experience.
So, because one group in particular, I must have started a freshman OP group, and they had a new coffee group. And so we went through the last 4 years together. And so when my kids graduated and they knew it was their last time, it was like, oh. Yeah. We went to their little basketball games because they would do the modified PE, and have a basketball game. And
They do
this
some-
year was a little rockier. I guess a new group of kids were part of the coffee group, and it's like, I don't know their names yet. It takes a while. It takes a while to get to know them.
Yeah.
They don't come quite as often down the hall, like every day. We knew they were coming every day, and now it's like, when are they coming
All have
in?
their pros and cons.
Not
Some
today.
of it was by
Yeah.
engagement, except to be honest.
I totally
Sorry, I
understand.
just put it on
Okay,
right now, so I don't forget before.
Thank you for that time.
Okay, and we're back.
So I guess, this is in your letter,
Yep,
can you give us just a quick refresher, like,
it sure is.
rationale?
So, as you know, our current evaluation tool has been E4E. I'm not sure how long it has been E4E, to be totally honest with you. That is a platform that is provided by Southwest Plains. About 2 years ago, I think, there was some research done on the Keep tool. Somehow it came up, and Keep 2, as it's called, is the state's approved evaluation tool through KSDE. And so I think maybe through KISA or somehow 2 years ago, the Keep tool came to the forefront. And Tammy Nedler started doing a lot of investigation, research, and trying to compare the two tools. Actually had done some things with BLTs and DLT and done some communication feedback loop things along the way. As you all are well aware, we at one point actually had moved a few groups of employees over to the Keep tool to make sure it was something that was going to be feasible, manageable, was going to do what we thought it was going to do from the administrative perspective. We were notified that from the NEA's perspective that should be bargained because of the way it's currently stated in the handbook and those types of things. Rather than start a huge war at that point in time, it made sense just to back it off and wait for a year and just notice it formally in the letter. And since then, it has also kind of come up as we talked on day one that, like, why is there not something about evaluation in the actual negotiated agreement? And why is it stuck in its own separate document? So I guess the original conversation was to be, we would like to move away from E4E into a different tool for teacher evaluation. Now the scope of the whole conversation is we can discuss that part, but also how do we get this out of its own handbook and where it probably belongs as well, and how does that look in that process? And so, again, from our perspective, from the board perspective, and why we would like to switch is literally because after the individuals who have utilized the tool and what we've seen from the tool, it's much more engaging. I believe there's some goal setting pieces and some other things that occur within the Keep 2 tool that we don't currently have in the E4E tool. There's also a better way of keeping artifacts and those other types of things that teachers have the ability to do in the Keep tool that we don't have in the E4E tool. And so just as an overall ongoing way to show that continued growth in any kind, we believe that it's just a better overall tool. Amy, you can interject anything from your perspective. I know this was kind of Tammy, like I said, I think it came out of KISA originally, which is why it kind of came through Tammy in the academic office. And Amy has kind of looked into it, picked it up. Obviously from the HR perspective, because teacher evaluation is in my realm, I'm part of those conversations. But the original request to move from E4E to Keep 2 did not come from HR.
Sorry. And I would echo a lot of the points that Jason just made. Having used it and then now been a part of that from the administrator's side, it is much more engaging, for lack of a better word. The conversations are richer. I feel as though some of the items within the rubric itself seem a lot more applicable to what teachers actually and administrators do. But I really loved the goal setting part because we're already doing some of that through our IDPDs. Did I just use the right acronym? The individual plans that we put in the front line. And I think, yeah. And I just think it just really reflects what we want, from my perspective, which is collaborative growth in our educators, and that being part of that process. It's not a, I would hope everybody would agree that an evaluation is not meant to be a one-time event that then translates to nothing other than a one-time event, It's all about working together to do it, to put things in place so that your students are successful, so.
I just might interject for clarity in the negotiation process. The part of this that has to be negotiated is evaluation procedure. Generally, boards can pick a tool, but we're assuming because you have this written agreement that it functions as a supplement to your agreement. So since there's a tool specified in there, we're proceeding under the belief that we need to seek agreement to change the tool. I don't know for certain how Department of Labor might interpret that, but, we've chosen to be upfront with you about it and give you the opportunity for input.
Yeah, that was talked about a little bit on, I want to say Thursday. I say Thursday, it's close enough.
Last week.
Yeah, that's it. And when I went back and looked at this, the statute itself, let me pull it up because I'm going to get it wrong. The statute,
General,
Right now.
2408, is that it?
It is this one.
72, 2218, is that the one?
Or 24, which one?
There's one, okay, so there's one that has to do with.
2014. Maybe. 2014, 2014.
And I've heard 3 different numbers. Well,
We're looking at it.
We're talking chapter 72, right?
The one I'm looking
What did
for,
you say? I'm sorry.
I was
Okay.
just agreeing that it is in chapter 72 and then.
it's
subsection.
2410C. So C is the original policy and amendments thereto shall be developed by the board in cooperation with the persons responsible for making the evaluations and the persons who are being evaluated. And then to the extent practical, consideration shall be given to comments, suggestions for the community from other community interests. To me, like, the amendments to the policy would be things like we're changing the tool that we're using, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I was relying on 722218L, I believe. That is the list of mandatory topics for negotiating.
Oh,
17, 18.
2218. Right, and you scroll down to L,
Yeah.
that whole laundry list of things.
Oh, right.
Right, and, yeah, professional employee appraisal procedures.
Yeah,
Is
I
the part that must be negotiated, which implies, how many times you're gonna be observed, what right do we have for a sit-down meeting, what right do we have to respond to an evaluation, all that stuff. We acknowledge it has to be negotiated. I think there are actually Department of Labor opinions, I haven't looked them up, saying the tool in general doesn't have to be. We're just kind of saying, because you've had this agreement, this certified evaluation handbook that you sign off on, we're treating it as if that's part of the agreement. And since there's a tool specified in there, we're coming to you and asking you to consider allowing that tool to be changed.
so I have a few questions and clarifications about the E4E and the KEEP. So E4E is also a state-approved, KSDE-approved evaluation tool, correct?
it has to be for us to be able to use it. It's just not the state-sponsored one.
Okay, it's not the state-sponsored one, alrighty. Doesn't E4E also have a goal-setting page and a reflection pages to use before and after?
Yes, I believe so.
Are we not using those in this district for the E4E at this time?
Yeah. As
Um,
far,
Yeah.
but again, as far as storing, housing them and storing them, it's not nearly as efficient because it's all paper documents, basically.
Okay, so you're saying the only difference is the paper documents
No.
between,
The,
okay,
the major, to Amy's point, the major difference is the rubrics themselves. But there are other things that also would make it more efficient from the storage situation to where we literally could go away and we would have to adjust that piece too, but we could go away from having to print paper documents every year and literally placing them in files because the state piece stays there, whereas E4E gets purged every summer. So there's just some other aspects to it as well. But the biggest change is the rubrics and the different way the rubrics are set up and how, again, just from this perspective and from the people that I've received feedback from that have utilized the Keep To rubric, there's a little bit of a more meaningful conversation that occurs because of the way the rubrics are set up.
And I don't want to speak for other people, but I know that the goal setting within the rubrics on Keep, your goals, you can tie them directly into the rubric, where the goal setting for E4E, that
Really, the
in a
goals,
perfect situation, you would have that direct conversation, but what I really like about Keep is you choose which component your goal setting is on. So as an administrator and talking to the employee, we actually have a rubric that then is, your goal is tying in there. Now, it doesn't limit you in any way to specific wording or anything like that, but it just makes those conversations more meaningful. And I feel as though it engages better two-way communication. And I'll give you another example is through Keep, and I don't believe this was ever possible through E4E. If it was, I never figured out how to do this, but in Keep, when, let's say, Johnny, you did a self-evaluation and submitted it, and then I went in and entered my evaluation piece, the minute I submit it, it's then accessible. So, and same with your goals. When you log back in, our communication, and if you upload an artifact, I can immediately see it. If I put in something, you can immediately see it. Once I hit submit, there isn't this turnaround of, gosh, I wonder what they just wrote in there. It as soon as the person hits submit, and it timestamps all of that so that we can see when communications are happening.
And just for clarity, you said what gets purged every year? Something gets purged?
E4E, like
That's
basically, that we get an email every summer that says, if you have not printed and stuff, it's all gets purged every summer. So that's why we still print all of our teacher, and again, our policy and expectation still says we're gonna have paper copies in the file, so we would have to change that anyway if we were gonna go all electronic. That's not the biggest reason why anyway, but it's just another side component of potentially being in Keep.
okay, you said you have gotten feedback and that people have done this. What classroom teachers, what levels have they been at that these were used, or that
I think it was mainly counselors and librarians 2 years ago that were involved in it. So again, not necessarily classroom teachers, but part of the bargaining unit, which again is why this came up as to you need to stop doing this. And again, as soon as we had clarification on that, and to honor, like Luke said, the fact that, we do have this second document that we do see as potentially being part of the bargain or part of the contract simply because it's signed off on by the board president and the NEA or the DCNEA president every year. We stopped, took everybody, put them back in E4E so we could come to this table and have this conversation.
Okay.
The other big one, McGrail.
Yeah.
I have been looking at some of the KEEP's rubrics, and they have 4 components with also 4 levels, which is the same as E4E. So you're saying though, it's the housing of the documents. Right now, if I send a evidence of my student's work into my principal, and that's my documentation, like I'm supposed to have. And they upload that, they scan that into E4E, is that correct? Is that how that works? The principal does that, or do they just attach that?
I
don't even know.
I
there's
don't
a
know
way
that
to
there
do
is
that
a-
in E4E.
I don't believe there is an
I
E4E.
think it just
I think
becomes,
it's in Google
it just
Drives
goes
and.
with your printed evaluation into your portfolio.
Okay, and so from my understanding with KEEP, we as the teacher now have to upload that documentation, not if my principal, when I'm working with my principal, I can show them the work that the class did. Or they can note in there, I saw this in your class and this is what I saw going on. And sometimes they write it down on the evaluation notes.
Yeah, I
like-
think you could do the same thing. I mean, if you're gonna pull it up and show it to them anyway, right there in that same meeting, you could put it into Keep at the same time, just like you were showing it to them.
No, I'm talking like, this is my student's work.
Yeah.
Because that's how I get it. I don't get it in,
Coming in with a folder and saying.
That's what I mean.
"Ba-doom."
Yeah.
Because that's what teachers usually deal with, paper.
I'm just curious as to how that would translate from there to the Keep, like
So
what
you're
if,
saying these
what's,
would be the artifacts
That's
that
my
you're
artifacts.
putting into the.
If that's what they're wanting.
because they want evidence and artifacts from Keep, correct? Am I
There
misunderstanding
is a
that?
section to upload evidence and artifacts and keep.
And that's part of the
So-
requirements.
And to be clear, when you say evidence, what would that entail?
So currently, and again, I haven't used E4E for several years, but is it required that there's evidence and artifacts, or is it something you can provide?
It's something I can choose to provide
So-
first.
Or I think
Keep
it could be asked for.
Requires
Or we
that,
can
or
be
is it
asked for
also
it.
something that can be provided?
Well, I think that's where maybe we could have that discussion. If you don't upload anything, it's not like it won't let you continue.
That's not, well, I might be wrong, but that's not what I understood, is that you do have to upload quite a bit as the person being the evaluated person. And so that's there's aspects of this that I could see exactly why. And the thing is what are we gaining? That's what I want to make sure. We're gaining something that's really going to be effective on both parties, not just add extra work to what's already there.
And again,
If what
it
you're-
comes back to amount
Well,
of time, because when do we have time to turn this into this, to then upload into that? And it's all on me.
So-
It's not something I can just, when you say evaluations aren't just a one time a year, I know that. They're not. We're constantly evaluating ourselves. For the most part, I know several teachers who do, me being one of them. I go over my lesson plans at the end of the week. And I'm like, oh, this didn't work, I didn't get this far, why didn't this work? And I write down ideas. I write, what happened that day? What was it? Was it the day? Was it me? Was it the kids? Was it the lesson? But that's not stuff I'm putting into here. I'm not putting that in my eval. That's mine.
I
And I
guess,
don't think that would be,
Okay.
I don't think that's what.
But so then what are they asking for? And where's the time if we have to put together all this? Where's the time? Because the district has put a lot on plates without taking anything off. I mean, stuff is already spilling over.
So this may not be a fair example, but I'll just use a personal example. So, when I was working with, as an administrator, so we used administrative key 13 to do my evaluation. When I was working through that, one of the goals that I set had to do with the integration of letters training into PLCs and stuff like that. So when I developed a PLC agenda and it supported the goal that I had set, it was an artifact that supported the goal that I had set for myself, I just attached it. But it wasn't like I had an attachment or an artifact for every single component within Keep. Does that make sense? Like there are multiple components and areas. I didn't have to upload 30 things. I just uploaded evidence of my growth in my goal areas. And it wasn't like every little time I did a reflection or anything like that. Does that, I don't know that that makes it any clearer,
I
but
have not ever seen the Keep, so I
Yeah.
have no idea. Didn't even look into it.
So I
was gonna ask, would it be, and I know we probably couldn't Zoom it, so to speak, or we wouldn't be able to stream it. Could you log in and pull, would it be beneficial to log in and
Demonstration.
pull up Keep and do a demonstration of it? So at least we have kind of that common knowledge of what it is amongst this group as we continue to move this conversation forward.
Well, I think, to answer your question about the showing, I think we can share the screen.
Okay.
I think the button next to the little curvy arrow is share screen. I could be wrong, but I'll
Do we
investigate that.
I think the
Here, I
reason
got
that you were asking that is because is it just like, does it have any information that
Yeah, share
you
screen.
don't want to have?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Again, I've been in Keep and I was trained on Keep 2 years ago in what it looked like and how it operated. And I think there's ways to go in and look at the rubrics and look at the overall platform without seeing people's personally identifiable information,
That's
correct?
yeah, there is. I just was logging in to see. And we can see the rubrics real quickly on the KSDE website itself, so we could do that. When I'm logging in right now, I can see people's closed out evaluations.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
That's what I don't
Now,
wanna
what I
have
could do though
That's what I don't want to
is-
have happen. And
Yeah,
maybe
I don't
we
know that, I
hold
may
off
need to work on that, but we could look at the rubrics if you want to look at those.
Well,
Maybe what we can do.
Or I can send them to you.
They're on the website.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're on the website. That's why I've been looking at them.
Yeah,
because they
and
were on the
the
website.
evaluation cycle piece is on there. But what I'm wondering, Jason, is if I could go set up a dummy account. When I need to have the other login. I have a different login where I can add people and I could add a test subject so that we could go in and you could see what happens when you, like somebody would create a self-evaluation. If you
basically
wanted to go that
model
far
the
and you could
process.
model through the process. If you'd want to do that.
So,
that sounds okay. Also, I just have a few questions / things to think about, like
Yeah.
what problems are we solving, right, by switching to Keep? Is it solving problems that we have in E4E? Is it actually solving a problem, or is it just different? Because, I mean, ice cream's ice cream, different flavors, it just makes it taste a little bit. It's ice cream. And are we creating problems right now? Are we creating problems by switching to it? And that's our norms, right, for this. So right now, and I admit that I don't know enough about Keep to fully like full chested say this, but the vibe I'm getting is that it's not really. I don't know that it's doing anything. It's just
That it
changing
might
the
be
flavor of the
administrative
ice cream.
friendly and evaluating us, but it might not be user friendly for the teacher having to put the stuff.
So and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just telling you, I'm just being honest. Like the way I'm seeing it right now is I don't know that we're accomplishing a lot by switching to Keep that E4E doesn't already accomplish, other than using a little less paper. But, and then,
So if we were able to just get E4E rebuilt to meet exactly what Keith does, you all would be fine with it.
well, I just don't know that I don't know that we need to, I don't know that we need to change.
Then we're not changing too.
But, and I don't think the gut reaction is like anti-keep. I think the gut reaction is, okay, are we fixing any problems? And what are those problems? And then also, are we not creating more problems? And for creating more problems, I think also what I'm hearing and what I've heard from a couple of the teachers who've talked to me about keep, especially a couple of years ago, is that it generates more work for teachers and we're not, I mean, we already feel like we're drowning a bit. I don't really want to add more in the evaluation tool. But maybe there's a way it can be done. It's not that, or maybe that's incorrect. I don't know. And then the third thing, the last thing I think about right now is, you said we started piloting this a couple of years ago, but it was with counselors and librarians. And while we love our counselors and our librarians, we value them, that's also a different gig than a classroom teacher. Would we be willing to consider getting piloting with some classroom teachers, like elementary, middle, and high school, just to
And I could
see?
ask if there were any teachers in there. I don't believe, I don't know. I don't want to
Yeah.
speak to that. That wasn't in my
Right.
position, but
I think anything's on the table at this point, to be honest.
Yeah,
with you.
because
But again, going back to the increased workload, so to speak, then we're asking some people to operate in two different platforms during that.
well, I think if we
time.
made it voluntary and explain that, that we're trying to figure this out, I think,
So for
That's-
example,
so
somebody like me, I'm still on evaluations, this will be my third year. Then I would be possibly approached and said, hey, would you evaluate under CUPE this year instead of E4E to see how it goes and get some feedback as a classroom teacher in the middle level? And I think it would be just needed, a volunteer, if that's okay with you guys, because I think my biggest problem is I don't know the process. And again, counselors and librarians, they have a different world, a different beast than a regular classroom teacher, and what's required for their documentation compared to what's required for my documentation and that kind of thing. And we want to make sure that we're not giving up our local control of what the district and the board has control over with an evaluation tool to a different group like the KSDE that maybe doesn't have the same understanding of this area and understanding of the demographics of this and our students and things like that. So I think it would, if you guys are willing to, which I know personally, I'm gonna speak for myself, I'm willing to investigate it so that I have some very good knowledge about what it requires.
I would volunteer, it's my evaluation.
See that too.
And I would really encourage you to, for everybody, no matter what, to take a look at the rubrics. Because as an administrator, using E4E and using KEEP, it better reflected my, not just my duties, but what I was doing in my classroom. And I felt like when it talked about things like, school improvement plans, that's a big part of an administrator's job. And it has some of the same categories, but look at the rubric, because it kind of is a little bit more informational about expectations. And, clarity is never a bad thing.
that's what I said a couple of times today.
Because you guys were on administrative, you've been evaluated before. There were times as an administrator, I'd be doing an evaluation and I'd be like, what exactly does that?
Yeah, I mean,
There needs to be clarity, and look at the rubrics, because I feel as though the KEEP rubric is much more clear.
what I hear you saying is
Evaluate,
that
but I wonder if Karen and I could go back use the E4E evaluation tool she used on me and say, okay, now what would it be over here now? What would it be?
Yeah.
That would be a neat.
I mean,
That would be a
Yeah,
neat
like I
thing,
because
said,
I'm not evaluating anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done. That was last year, but I can never do it.
But,
Also, if we
but that would be
clear-
interesting, and I'm sorry, Joey.
Go ahead, go ahead.
One more thing on the rubrics piece, because I used the E4E rubrics for 5 years in this district. And what always drove me nuts was moving from probationary to distinguished on all but one of the 4 pieces was literally nothing more than the amount of time that you did the thing.
Well, and that's,
Sometimes, if they would
Sometimes,
go
often,
often,
always.
almost always.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
and it's like,
Yeah.
so seriously, no matter how good I am at it.
Yeah.
I can move over simply because of how many times you see me do it.
Well-
And the key rubric is, again, much more engaging and much more clear and actually, again, I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it challenges for that growth because it's more specific about those things that you're already doing in your classroom, and it has more to do with than just how often are you doing it.
I
well,
think
and
from
I know-
everybody's perspective, you want to get the best data possible.
Yeah,
Whichever tool yields the best data, if we can figure out the procedure part, so it's not onerous for you.
Yes.
and well, I'm not really looking to like kick cans down roads or anything. I do, we do have a duty to make sure that we are solving problems and not creating more or piling on extra work. And so
Yeah, I think we
It-
take back the idea of a pilot, like, again, I'm 100, this didn't come from me.
sure.
I would like to have Amy, Matt, and Scott involved in a caucus type conversation. We can discuss what a pilot potentially would look like
Right.
for a year with classroom teachers.
And not to dismiss the counselors and librarians, like their input is also valuable. I just, it just seems
are we,
like there's missing a piece.
I know that E4E has been updated too. Are we using the updated rubrics from E4E or are we using the older rubrics from E4E?
I don't think we're on, in this, I might misspeak, but I don't think we're on what they call 2.0 just
Yes.
yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was gonna be the other piece to this conversation if we don't go to keep going to 2.0 with
And
Southwest Plains.
Because I
believe you're
would
correct
love-
on that.
I would love to see if they've fixed some of that. Time is the only thing that's changed and compare like what is really a good evaluation tool and then have the comparison of what it would take for each.
There's
Or
Does
no
Karen
secret that we're a pretty big client out here in
Yes.
Southwest
Right.
Kansas, and sometimes, like, when people catch wind that we're looking at something, there's some changes made, so, yeah, it could be something else that is compared. I guess, and again, I take ownership for it. Basically, what stinks from this perspective is we're basically gonna go back and do what Tammy did for a full year. Again, we're just gonna
Well,
try to be more meaningful with it.
Yeah, well, and I think also partnering with the people who are going to be evaluated is like
I get you.
what we're supposed to do, like.
But yeah, we'll take that under consideration. We'll put something together and, so your current proposal to us would be, can we please do this in a pilot year and actually include certified teachers in that
And
pilot?
Can we
yeah.
take that document and for now put it in our NA?
right, yeah, I was
As
gonna
it
say, why don't we?
is there anything in there that we should be looking at to try to fix right now besides the tool that is being used?
I'll have to, like,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the easiest thing to do is to say, incorporate it by reference, as an exhibit.
Uh-huh,
Oh,
But
sure,
the
yeah.
question is, do we want to amend anything before we incorporate?
that's what I was asking.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was just
I
asking,
mean,
yes,
I don't,
besides the
you
tool.
could also just cut and paste everything in there, but it seems like it's detailed enough. I think I'd err toward the
Reference
first
the
option.
tool.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
evaluations shall be carried out according to the provisions of certified evaluation handbook attached to as exhibit, whatever.
thought I was gonna get one less handbook to have to manage.
It's just gonna be attached to your
hopefully
agreement now.
it's not,
We could put it in there as an exhibit, like.
at the end of it, maybe, is that what you're saying? Maybe put exhibit and
Yeah,
then put
look,
it, attach it to the end?
If you wanna really simplify things, we come up with language to do that too. But it
Yeah.
seems to me you've got pretty comprehensive stuff here that you may not wanna give up.
No, we don't, but what I'm saying is, do we wanna take that handbook and just
Drop it in.
right at
I
the
think we
end?
have, that would actually be simpler even
For
for me, because
Yeah.
now it's not one more handbook that I gotta manage.
And teachers can go
Let's
just.
get this agreement
They can
to
find
us.
We can do
Yeah.
that. We
Teachers
just
can
gotta
find-
wait.
I think we just did, if you count
You
these,
get 100?
we're gonna be close.
You know,
But,
You know what I thought?
an English teacher.
Our agreement was 2.
I was wondering if it was one or two,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jetmore
They-
is currently right now, one,
In where?
Jetmore,
Oh, that's less than when I was there.
Jetmore, I think it's one page. I was just meeting with people last night and they said.
There's
it's
a whole
one
lot of golden ruling stuff.
page.
So-
Not Ulysses, Ingalls is one page as well.
I don't know how anybody gets 61 pages.
So we agree that this will become an exhibit to the back of the
Yeah,
negotiated
or
agreement.
part of.
Or
it,
just be
something.
incorporated
Yeah.
Just drop
as
it
its own
in.
section.
Will it,
Can,
so
The
can we,
section should really be caption evaluation procedure.
can we then avoid having to sign off on it every year?
Yes.
yes,
So
that would
it's
be
part
an
of it.
avoidance
Carries
because
over.
it would be
Yes.
part of the NA.
Be part of the.
You would be like,
It's
one
been a
less
little
thing,
bit
I
of
gotta check.
One less thing.
Yeah, so we are just gonna capture the whole thing and put it into the end of our
A new
NA
section.
under
Yeah.
another section, you know, and maybe, I would think that we should hash out, like, before we try to do that, hash out the wording for the section.
Well, you
We
want
should
good
look through
news?
the language and be sure we want it all to go.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
We can look through the language, make sure we want all to go in, but also, there's another version of this that was actually approved by the president of the DCNEA 3 years ago that has the key stuff all embedded in it already.
Really? Wow, that's.
I don't know who 3 years.
Whitney.
Crazy. That
Oh,
would've
yeah.
been-
Oh, yeah.
Holly-Ann,
Was
see,
it
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, do you
Yeah, or
happen to
maybe
have
just-
copies of that, Jason? I'm
I
so sorry.
thought I handed
you
them out the
had-
other day.
No, yes, sir, I'm sorry, I never got one if I
Yes,
could have
do.
maybe left it. But yes, I don't want it to make it more difficult
did
for
I?
you, but
Oh, I
I think,
handed them out to our team the other day,
Yeah,
didn't
I
I?
was gonna say, we didn't get anything.
Here.
So.
That one is yours.
okay,
Yes.
thank you.
access to.
You can also go, so any of this stuff, you can go to the staff side of the district
Yeah, we had
website
to-
if you ever need it.
Compare.
I'm a paper person, I like to write on
Me too.
things, so.
And I apologize, I thought I had more copies, I can bring some more too.
To evaluate as a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
She's not gonna have.
Could you do
Now,
that with another person who's not been evaluated?
Oh,
Now, what
yeah, I can.
Thank
Do
you
you want me
very
to
much.
make copies of
Or
the
she can just take the.
I
I've
mean,
got a
and put it
PDF.
in
I'm
the
good.
workshop.
Yeah, you could just.
Okay.
I mean, I got copies.
Side by side.
So.
Is there, yeah, so we can have this looked up before we drop it in the NA, you guys can look at it before we
Yes.
drop it in the NA. Make sure there's not something there that we don't need to have there or want to have there. So,
If not, let me know, because if you won't go through there and just kind of review it from your perspective.
okay, because I would love to see this
Yeah.
compared to the two.
I'm gonna have that.
Well, I mean, I think like ultimately, we just want to use whatever works best for us.
Or.
Whatever that may be, I don't have like brand loyalty for you.
And then I can come to you with my, what Karen did, share you, you know,
So.
two, what would you say?
I can upload this, because this is what the report looks like. So you could go.
Well, glad we at least started that conversation, because we may be way further along than I expected to be on it today, honestly. I mean, we can create some sort of meaningful, because it might even be best doing it that way again, simply because of the time frame and how everything would have to get into Keep Two and people would be enrolled. I mean, y'all know, like, there are some things that the teacher has to go in and accept the invite and
Right.
those types of things. So we might be pushing a pretty tight window to get everybody in there anyway by the start of next school year, so.
Well, and I remember a couple of years ago, like, no, I can't say nobody, but very few teachers knew that that was happening, and we just got an email saying, hey, sign up for this thing. We're like, what is this? What's going
Believe me, I do remember.
on? Like, hold on.
That's when I ended up on the phone with JASD.
Yeah, and this I think will create, like, generate a conversation about it, like, yeah, I think it'll be a better idea.
There's two of us that are on this side of that, and.
I would like that to go back and be evaluated on it, because I just got off the cycle last year. But I would like to be evaluated on it because I think this would actually fit into my national board. Because I'd like to be evaluated on it this year, because I think it would be.
Well,
fit into
you are free to request an evaluation anytime you want. I mean, your administrator can request one and you can request one, so.
I would like to go back and be evaluated with the key.
Wait,
because
so if I
think it's
request
fit into my
one,
national
do I get
board.
like 4
A
years?
longer year.
I'll get 2 in a row and then 6.
I don't think so.
Sorry.
The state does not work that way. So you guys are gonna go ahead and look into the 2.0 as well, just so we can actually compare rubric to rubric, or is that my non-understanding?
Well, I just don't know how
Or at
getting a
least-
hold of Southwest Plains and getting a copy of all of that will work
Uh-huh.
between now and what did we put next Wednesday?
Oh, no, but I'm not
Oh.
talking about next Wednesday. I'm talking about for
What about
the time that, so we can look at, like, I can sit there with the 2.0 and with the key
So here's
rubrics.
where I'm at right now, based on what I've heard, is I'm gonna take the suggestion back to my entire district team that we literally put a proposal together for a pilot year. During that pilot year, I think we will have more time to do exactly what you're saying and look at those different, I don't wanna try to cram in comparisons on all of those things over the next 2 weeks, so to speak. So I'm not saying that we're gonna pilot both, but maybe from now until when we get back to school, there could be some extended conversations where we get copies of both. We decide which one we do want to pilot, so to speak. And then move on from there next school year with a pilot. That's gonna be my current proposal, unless, again, I'm not what I'm trying to be careful with, and again, when I say we are gonna ask people to work in 2 platforms, it's the building principals who are gonna end up doing the extra work on this, in this capacity, because again, especially if they're newer and they don't have the experience with Keep, oh, by the way, or with E4E, oh, by the way, now we want you to learn 2 platforms so you can do a couple of people in this one. But maybe we can strategically make sure they don't end up with any of the people that are piloting the newer one, so they can just learn E4E for starting out, so to speak. But most of our principals, in some way, shape, or form, have at least seen and utilized the Keep system. I have not seen nor utilized the 2.0 system from Southwest Plains. I don't even know what that looks like. And so,
As a note, I don't negotiate for the administration, but if it's extra work, you just pay them a stipend.
I wish that were true.
So
Unfortunately, that whole salary thing applies to us.
Yeah.
So I think that Amy and I are still gonna ask Kara to go through just chuckles and grins.
No,
I'd say
you're
try
more than welcome to do that and just see kind of where it would fit and that type of stuff. But back to Angelique's point about the 2.0 rubrics, do you have Kim's
I have
contact
made a note
information?
to email Kim. Her and I had a very brief conversation about that at one of the superintendent's councils. But I didn't get too deep into it because I knew that we were possibly bringing this. So I can email her and have her
And
send me information or set me up with a dummy account or something.
because I think this is probably gonna end up back here next year.
Well, obviously, if we're gonna pilot, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
No, I mean, but I guess because it's gonna end up being next year, I guess I shouldn't have phrased this.
Well, the first thing we'll do is we'll put in, what are those called?
A
Oh, memorandum.
Memorandum of
Understanding as to how that pilot's gonna look and how it's gonna work. So let us gather some information. Let us write an actual proposal about what it would look like. We'll bring that back here next week or whenever and then we'll go from there on how we write up the actual memorandum together.
Yeah, well, because, yeah, what I was gonna say is like, if it's gonna end up back here, maybe we should include like us in part of that, not to like but I mean.
It sounds like several of you want to be a part of it
Yeah.
already, so
Yeah,
that's good
like,
news.
just
Well, I wanna
put that in, bake that into the MOU. And that would, you know, the 2410C or whatever, that we make changes to our amendments to the policy.
And I will
would fit that, I think.
I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that approach from several of you, because it goes a long way from my perspective, that you're just not saying no and heck no, like we're not changing, you're literally willing to look at it, see and see how meaningful it can be. And so that also means a lot from my perspective, so thank you.
I think we sometimes argue and yell, but I think
I know,
at the end of the day, we're on the same team.
we are, but again, we disagree a whole lot more times than we agree a lot of times, I guess is my point. And it's nice when, even though we disagree, we're willing to work through it in a meaningful manner. Anything else?
So are we good for today?
I think so.
We're gonna write up a proposal for this, we're gonna bring back language for the mentor piece, and then you guys are gonna review the,
Did you bring lunch?
yes, but I'm just saying from our perspective, all three of our topics are there and on the table, and we have basically some solutions for. So when you say, are we good for today? It would really be,
Oh, yeah.
from your perspective, do you want to go into any of the things you've noticed us or not? Is the only point I was making.
Well, the next 15 minutes, I don't know what we'll get through meaningfully.
Sounds
We
good.
could touch on stuff, but it's not. So maybe let's quick sum up before we, is it sum up before we, that's not the right word.
Summarize.
Summarize, stand up, that's not.
Wrap up.
Wrap up.
Recap.
That's it, recap.
I don't know, we can come up with more words.
So I am getting information on the potential to set minutes for duty-free lunch. I am gonna get information from the middle school principals on what it would look like to potentially change one day of team time to plan time at the middle school level. I am going to put together a proposal and put it in the shared drive for the mentor language for those people that have different duties and responsibilities. And then we will together as a district bring back some language for what it might look like to pilot that new evaluation tool.
And I don't know who would need to do this or what. Do we feel like we need to clarify the language in the elementary school plan time section? Just because the intent was for 20 minutes. a year.
I would add a simple
Yeah.
statement that
Yeah.
at least 20 minutes are guaranteed for
Yeah.
Per
I mean,
I think
so
that would be a
each
good
full
idea.
school day.
Because, so then I guess, do you want us to craft that? Do you guys want to? I don't care.
We could.
I'll let you craft that one.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, we'll craft it.
We'll give you the one line.
I'll take my 6, you can have your 1. Trying to keep some work off.
Balance.
Yeah.
Equity.
Yeah. Was there anything else?
You have one? No? Okay.
And then we're kind of waiting on, we're kind of waiting on Hammer for various money things. We're kind of waiting on Andrea for leave. Are we waiting on other people for things? And then
I reached out to my principals about that whole minute thing.
Okay.
What about the lunch deal? Do I need to do anything with
I don't know, we're gonna have to have a conversation because
Is
again,
that
if we're just literally looking at setting a number of minutes,
That I think is already there. It's just maybe more clear for when students are sent back early, like, so people understand this is the number of minutes. I think in the schedules, that's what I mean.
yeah, I don't have all of those, so we may have to pull building schedules and just look at what it is. I don't know.
So just to clarify, like, is the concern that they don't have a set lunch time? When you said students being sent back early, I guess
The concern is right now in our negotiated agreement, it says that the teacher will have the allotted duty-free lunchtime, it's not exact words, for the same amount of time as a student. Well, though sometimes some students might be released earlier than the lunch period that is written on our schedules. So, because that's how much time they have for lunch, well, that's how much time the teacher gets. So maybe one group of lunch students are released right after 25 minutes, and that's how much lunchtime is supposed to be on the schedule. But maybe another group is released only 20 minutes after they've been in there. Does that, it's mostly in a secondary level
Yeah.
than over
That's what I
than
just-
elementary.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah,
release
it does not-
elementary.
Yeah, sorry,
Kids
I'm
go
like-
to class.
Yeah.
Well, and then
But
also.
it happens
At
at
the
the high
elementary.
school, like,
The other thing that I think that it'll, I think, help clarify is the number of minutes at the elementary versus the number of minutes at the middle school and high school
The
are
actual
different.
number of minutes.
Right, and that can create an
And
inequity.
again, I don't know that we're gonna be able to
Yeah.
solve that piece.
Well, and I don't know either, but I figure it makes sense to me to have the minutes in it, and if we can't do that, let's do that. Even if it's like 25 for middle and 23 for elementary or whatever, I mean, but I still think that having that time specified makes it a little stronger, a little more protected, a little potentially more equitable.
And Amy, could you, would you be able to like email me how long each building has for a lunch period per, like, just like a fourth grade lunch is 25 minutes, because that's everybody's lunch, or that kind of thing at each, because, yeah, I believe DCMS and CMS have the same amount of lunch time.
Yeah, and I don't know that they're different, they might be
But
the
I
same
can find
already.
out.
I think all the elementaries are the same, but
Well-
don't quote me on that. I just looked through
Yeah.
schedules for that other deal and
And
I think they're all the same amount of minutes, but I'll double check.
what DCNEA is proposing is that we just say in the language, instead of saying for the same amount of time as a student, we say, for 25 minutes, no less than.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, no less than, and, or so that, because even on a special schedule, the lunch is still the same block of time. 25 minutes, 20 minutes, that kind of thing.
But we gotta be careful there because I don't want principals at our school to say, our kids only eat for 15 minutes because they have recess.
Well, and see,
I
that,
don't want recess.
that's what I'm saying, that could be in the current term, because it says for the lunch period that students are,
Mhm.
and instead of.
And I'm sure that's why there's a discrepancy because at the elementary level, they're back to.
They always do recess, because everybody needs a little running around after you eat.
Well, and
Oh, we do
admittedly,
it
like,
before.
I know that I don't have, I don't know all those little fine details, so I don't want to presume, but I don't think that it would be,
And I,
you know.
I'm with Jason, I don't know that it's gonna, I don't think there would be a way to say it's gonna be
Exact across.
exact across
But we-
because of your minutes.
No less than is what I think, instead of the way it's worded, is all we're talking about changing so that it doesn't get affected. And again, I don't believe it's at the elementary levels because they give back that recess to it. I feel like it's more of a concern at the secondary levels. And if I'm wrong, hopefully people will tell us.
So is it middle school? Is it middle school? Is it high school? Is it both? Like,
It's high school, I know there's some concern at the high school.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I'm just trying to see where I need to start, because I want to try to see if I can get some information. And so the concern is potentially that at the high school, certain lunches are being dismissed quicker than others, so the teacher is not getting their full allotted time that this student has.
Right, and there's the lunches in the middle, the second and third lunch where students have to return to class. That's, I think where the most of that problem lies, because they're coming back to class before the, so
Okay,
it's like.
so because there's not really a passing period, there's not a true passing period built in between those lunches,
Yeah,
therefore, those two middle lunches might be shortened compared to the two outside lunches, so to speak?
yes, I think so.
Okay, that does make sense to me, like, I can see that.
Yeah, and some of the, and I don't think they ever move around, like, what lunches happen when, because I've been at McCarty now 7 years, and it's always been second lunch.
If you lose, between two passing periods, you lose 12 total minutes,
Yeah.
it's 6 minutes still,
6
right?
minute passing up there.
Yeah, you lose 12 total minutes on the sides of those, so I'll have to do some investigation and see like how that's set up and just make sure I'm thinking of it the way it is still, yeah. That does give me at least a place to start, so I appreciate it. All right, well, I guess I will. Hammers, like I said, he'll be back Monday. I plan on visiting with him when he returns on Monday and trying to get him up to speed with where we're at currently and try to make sure that he can be there on Wednesday and or Thursday of next week and maybe potentially start having that next conversation. So, other than that, have a great weekend.
You too. You too.
If you're interested, there's a football game on Sunday at 2:00.
I will get
I might be there.
I might see it. I might wave at you again.
Randy, I sent you that PDF.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
Yeah, I'm the defensive
I'll see what I
coordinator.
can,
It's not gonna
what I
be
might be able to
Cowboys,
snag along.
Dodgers,
Yeah.
Okay.
Just haven't played with them much.
Jason,
And,
I still fight.